how do we work out salvation? First of all, is that our job? Are we working out salvation? Are we causing salvation by what we're doing? So are we working out salvation? And then what does it mean to do that with fear and trembling? Fear and trembling. There's an opportunity here for us to see something with great weight, with great, a deeper meaning than just a casual glance. And so Paul is writing to the Philippians towards the end of his life. He is in prison in Rome, and he's soon going to be executed for proselytizing his faith. And he's writing to them who have brought him great joy over many years. And he's laying out this way in which Christ lived, in which we live with Christ in us. And so I want you to think for a minute, how has this been interpreted to you, or what comes to your mind when you think of working out salvation and doing so with fear and trembling? Are we meant to be afraid that we get it wrong, or that we've missed salvation, or that God's not happy with us? Nancy says awe and wonder and reverence. Sarah says maybe not fear, but reverence and respect to God for what he's done for our salvation. Absolutely. A bunch of people are sharing what they're drinking, which I think is awfully fun. Rich, I see that you are talking about the wicked French roast that you graciously shared with me when I was in Dallas at a convention recently. And we're actually opening and grinding that tonight for coffee tomorrow. It doesn't go through my espresso machine, but it will go in our percolator tomorrow. We have some guests that are coming in tonight that we're going to serve that to. So I'm excited to have that wicked French roast. So those who are just joining us, the question's on the screen. What does it mean that we're working out our salvation with fear and trembling? Are you working out your salvation, or has that not already been worked out by Christ? And are you meant to do it afraid? Let's look at the passage. This is Philippians 2. And I like to call this, I'm going to call it a divine Oreo. It's got, the cookie on top and the cookie on the bottom and the cream in the middle. And if you miss part of it, then you're missing part of the cookie. Some people like to break the Oreo off and scrape off just the cream. And then maybe they eat the cookies, maybe they don't. Maybe they eat just one of them. Maybe they, don't eat any. Some people really like the crispy part, so they pop open the Oreo and they eat the cookie that doesn't have the cream on it. And then they eat the cookie that does have the cream on it. They eat it in a different order, but I'm here to tell you, if you don't get 2 cookies and the cream, you're not eating an Oreo, you're just eating part. And I think we've done just that with this verse. For years, we've taken it out of context. People think that we are supposed to be afraid of God. There are many in the Reformed tradition who will be concerned that even though they believe in the grace of God, that maybe they're not elect. Maybe I've not been chosen. Maybe I want to be saved, but God hasn't saved me. I'm just praying that the grace of God will save me, that I will get to enter into the presence of God and he will accept me, even though I'm a low down, dirty, doggone sinner. So because of the identity crisis, they aren't confident of their salvation. And I'm here to tell you, you do not have to have an identity crisis and be excited. You can be excited about coming before God. It is not talking about being scared of God. So here's Philippians 2. It says this. This is, I think, the NIV. It says, therefore, dear friends, just as you have always obeyed. So he's talking to a faithful group of servants of God who have come alongside and partnered with him throughout his ministry for the most part. And so this is Paul writing. He says, therefore, friends, just as you have always obeyed, not only in my presence, but now much more in my absence. Right? You're not afraid of me. You're obeying whether I'm there or not in that same way. That's what he's saying. In that same way that you've obeyed my directions that God has given me for you, just like you've obeyed me when I'm with you and when I'm apart from you, just like that, he's saying, continue to work out your salvation with fear and trembling. What a great verse. I'll leave that up for a second. This is a wonderful, wonderful passage, because Paul is saying you have been faithful to God's direction in your life when I've been there to give it to you. And then when I've left, you've continued to be faithful. And so just like that, being willing to follow God's leading, God's direction that he's given me for you, just as you've been faithful to the gospel that I have shared, when I'm with you and when I'm gone, continue with fear and trembling to do that very thing. In other words, there's an awesomeness to how God is working in your life. Have you ever watched, maybe on TV or live, something that was terrifying but exciting? Maybe like me, I remember watching Evel Knievel when I was a kid do motorcycle jumps. And so they'd line up the cars or line up the trucks, or he was going to try to jump across the narrowest part of the Grand Canyon. They'd set up a ramp and he'd get it started, and we're just watching with rapt attention because live he's doing this stunt. Or maybe you've seen someone walk on a high wire across the Grand Canyon or between two buildings in New York City. And as you watched, we have rapt attention. We're kind of scared and excited because they're doing this daunting thing that if they get it wrong, they could die. And if they get it right, it seems almost impossible. They're doing this seemingly impossible thing at the risk of death. Man, it's terrifying. And as a little kid, I would then, walk across a board pretending that I'm on a tight wire over, a canyon, or, I'm on my tricycle. Actually, I had a big wheels. I'm on my big wheels pretending I'm Evel Knievel, just pedaling as hard as I can to make some huge jump over a puddle or whatever it was. I remember, because they did these awesome things, we would emulate that. We would make ourselves in our own minds as little children like those people, doing these daring feats, doing this impossible thing at such great risk. And so we're terrified of their failure, and we're excited that they might do it, and we're in awe of their ability, and it just seems treacherous. My friend, your life apart from Christ, what he wants to do in and through you is this amazing, awesome, treacherous life if you didn't have dependence upon Christ in you as the one and only hope of the glory of God.